All right, good evening, everyone. I would like to call the meeting of the Planning Commission to order at 6:05. I would like to run a roll call. Commissioner Carbajal? Not here. Okay. Commissioner Flores?
Present.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Present.
Vice Chair Mora?
Present.
Okay, I would like to call upon John Mora to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ex parte communications. This section is intended to allow all officials the opportunity to reveal any disclosure regarding site visits or ex parte communications about public hearings. Are there any ex parte communications?
None. None.
None.
None for me. Thank you. Public comments on non-agenda and non-public hearing agenda items. At this time, the general public may address the Planning Commission. Both non-agenda and agenda items, please be aware that the maximum times allotted for members of the public to speak shall not exceed 3 minutes per speaker. State law prohibits the Planning Commission from taking action or entertaining extended discussions on a topic not listed on the agenda. Please show courtesy to others and direct all of your comments to the chairperson. Planning Secretary, do we have any members of the public present that wish to speak today?
We do, but they're for agenda items, so when that time comes, they'll be able to speak at that time, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Staff communications on items of community interest. So Planning Commission agenda, we'll on to public hearing. Public hearing, amendment to conditional use permit, CUP, case number 641, amendment to zone variance ZV, case number 68-A, request to amend the previous approval for an open storage yard used for RV storage and alternatively approve the establishment, operation and maintenance of any open storage yard used for shipping containers and concurrent concurrent request to modify the previous zone variance approval to include 2 new deviations. A deviation to section 155.494, paving of parking and loading areas, and section 155.260, landscaping of the city's zoning ordinance, and adopt an addendum to the existing mitigated negative declaration. Rafi Manasian. I would like to call upon Acting Director of Planning, Huang Gwen, to provide a presentation regarding item number 1.
Hello? So before you tonight, as mentioned, is an amendment to conditional use permit case number 641 and an amendment to zone variance case number 68. In case you're not familiar with the site, the location is 8745 Pioneer Boulevard, assessor parcel number 8177-029-005. Has a general plan designation of industrial and zoning classification of M2, heavy manufacturing. The owner, as well as the applicant, is Premier RV Storage SFS LLC. Just to go over it really quickly, the existing site conditions. The project site is undeveloped, measures approximately 6.7 acres. It's shaped somewhat like a teardrop. We call it the balloon parcel. It's completely surrounded by Southern Pacific Railroad. And on to the north is a self-storage facility, also known as Dollar Self-Storage. To the south, vacant industrial land. Just to the east is the 605 freeway, as well as the San Gabriel River Channel to the west. Because the site is landlocked, there is an existing access easement that governs the property through a settlement agreement between Southern California Edison Stadium Properties, which is the self-storage facility to the north, and Premier RV Storage, which is the applicant. The agreement details obligations related to maintenance, roadway access, and signage. Let me actually go back to this access easement. As you could tell, going from Pioneer Boulevard, that is the main entrance and exit to the site. You just go southbound along the easement road and then westbound on the easement road and then southbound to the subject site. There's also an emergency access towards the front portion of the self-storage facility, but that is designated only for emergency purposes. Just a quick background of the original entitlements that were approved back in June of 2008. A conditional use permit was approved, CUP 641, which allowed for an open storage use for RV storage specifically. Concurrentently with that CUP was a zone variance, case number 68, which allowed deviations from sections 155.451 and section 155.639. I'll provide additional details on those variances in the following slides. I should also note the entitlements were granted 3 total time extensions to date, one in 2012, another in 2017, and the most recent time extension granted in 2022, which will be up for renewal in July of this year. However, the applicant, the owner, has found a more viable use for the site aside from the RV storage. Therefore, before you today is an amendment request of the existing CUP as well as the existing zone variance. The amendment to the CUP is to allow for open storage of now shipping containers as opposed to the RV storage previously. It is known to be more of a temporary solution so that the owners can find a permanent use for the site. So therefore, you'll see as one of the conditions of approval that the CUP, we're recommending that it be extended for an additional 5 years, subject to a 2-year administrative review. Concurrently with the CUP is a request for an amendment of the zone variance. As noted previously, there was a deviations for required frontage on a public street, as well as fronting on a freeway. As it relates to this project, there are 2 additional deviations due to the temporary nature of the use. One for a deviation to the paving requirement required in our code, as well as the landscaping requirements as stated in our code. And I'll go further into detail with those in the following slides. First is the amendment to the conditional use permit case number 641. Just a quick background of the original approval. This was the site plan for the RV storage use that was approved in June of 2008, which essentially allowed for RV storage with a maximum capacity of 348 total RVs. As you'll note on the plan, some of the site improvements included a manager's office as well as 2 covered storage areas. Here's elevations for the manager's office. It's a 2-story structure that is approximately 2,300 square feet, as well as elevations for the 2 covered buildings that provides covered storage for up to 110 RVs. And today's request, what's before you today, is the amendment of CUP 641. This is the site plan that is proposed. As you will note, there are 247 designated spaces for empty containers. The containers measure roughly 8.5 or 8 feet high by 10 feet wide by 40 feet long. There is potential for stacking of up to 4 high, which results in approximately 32 feet height and a maximum capacity of 988. You'll also note to the what would be the south portion of the site is 12 designated spaces for loaded containers. This is only meant for emergency temporary storage of loaded containers when there's no other place for these containers to go. They will be sitting on chassis and will be turning over in a shorter time period. We're told approximately a day or two. As part of the project, there will be perimeter fencing provided at 10 feet high, just to basically secure the site on all sides, as well as a 80 square feet portable security office located on the northwest portion, and 7 portable lights, more or less to provide lighting throughout the site. Obviously, there's no elevations proposed, but here are some example photos of what the areas would look like. To the left is a photo of what empty stack containers would look like. Obviously, there's more containers and it'll be stored in a different manner, as well as what the loaded containers area would look like with the containers on the chassis. These are actually photos from state-owned properties along the I-5 freeway that are currently being used now for the same type of use. And now to the amendment of the zone variance, case number 68. Going backwards, just a recap of the previous deviation. The first one is to section 155.451, relating to the required frontage on a public street. Since the site is landlocked, it doesn't front onto the public street, so a variance to that section is required and has been approved as of 2008, original approval. Second is variance to section 155.639, which relates to the requirement that all open storage uses not front onto a major secondary highway nor a freeway. However, in this case, because of the 605 freeway, a variance to that section was required. It was granted more or less because of the difference in the grade of the freeway. While it does front onto the freeway, it's not direct visibility as what you would normally find on like the I-5 freeway, for example. And before you tonight is a variance request for 2 additional deviations as stated previously. The first is to section 155.494 for paving. The code does require that all loading and parking areas be fully paved with either asphalt or concrete. However, due to the temporary nature of the use, it's more practical to have gravel in this case, and I'll explain in the following slide the reasons for that. Second is variance to section 155.260 relating to landscaping. Again, I'll provide additional details in the next slide. So justifications for the variance. Staff does feel there are justifications for both variances requests. With regards to the paving request, compact gravel is not only a cost-effective measure, but it's a surface that's easily adjustable for this type of use. In our research, we found it to be consistent with what other container uses are doing in other cities, as well as the state-owned site as voted previously. And lastly, gravel does provide an effective mitigation for dust. With regards to the variance for landscaping, since the site does not have direct visibility from public view, there's really no aesthetic value to having landscaping on this site. There's no functional benefits to it either. Additionally, because there's no utilities on site, you really can't do irrigation, so the plants must be drought tolerant if we were to require it anyways. As part of the review, just want to recap, originally in 2008, a initial study, mitigated neg deck, was prepared for the RV storage use, which analyzed basically all of the potential environmental impacts. In that study, there were mitigation measures identified and adopted for aesthetics, biological resources, and cultural resources. The original MND also included a traffic study that was prepared by Koonsman Associates. which concluded that the RV storage use would generate a typical of 116 daily vehicle trips. For the project before you today, for the container storage project, an addendum to that initial study mitigating neg deck was prepared by Blodgett Balosis Environmental Planning. It's also an exhibit in your resolution. The addendum essentially reviewed the environmental impacts associated with the previous project against what is currently proposed. It analyzed basically traffic impacts for up to 1,036 shipping containers, as also analyzed the original mitigation measures, which all are seen to be applicable and therefore will remain unchanged. And in addition to that, the addendum did include a trip generation analysis, also included as part of the CEQA addendum. It reviewed impacts associated, again, with the previous project against the current project. So the previous project, as mentioned previously, a traffic study was prepared by Koonsman Associates, identified 116 daily trips. The trip generation analysis for the project before you today, the container storage, estimated 120 truck trips per day or 60 round trips. So the difference is really just 4 more trips than the original baseline study. As typical for all entitlement requests, a public hearing notice was posted in City Hall, Town Center, kiosks, and the library on February 15th, 2024. It was also mailed to all properties within a 500-foot radius. It was also published in the Whittier Daily News on February 16th. To date, staff has received 1 inquiry, and it was from the adjacent property owner to the north. He expressed concerns with the proposed fencing, the traffic impacts, paving impacts, and potential conflicts at the Pioneer Boulevard entrance. And I'll go through some responses to some of those concerns in the following slides. So for your consideration today, the original CUP and the proposed amendment, they're both for open storage yard uses. The difference being one was for RV storage and this is now for container storage. So second, this subject site is really an ideal location for container storage. It's doesn't front onto a street. There's limited visibility from public view. And there's not much else you can do here. Lastly, third is the site will be fully secured from by a 10-foot high fence. As you may or may not know, there are some homeless issues in and around this site, and so securing this site is actually going to be a benefit to not only the site, but hopefully the area. As mentioned previously, crushed gravel will be used throughout the site. That will help mitigate any dust concerns from what is currently there, which is just simply dirt. The site will be properly graded, mitigating any concerns for drainage. It is relatively flat today, but there'll be proper grading done before the use is brought on site. So, going over some of the concerns raised by the property owner to the north. With regards to the perimeter fencing, the main purpose is really to secure the site, and staff feels that the proposed 10-foot high chain link fence is adequate, not only in height, but in material, given the temporary nature of the use. There was contemplation of wrought iron, but there's really no aesthetic value to have wrought iron in a location like this as opposed to something that has street visibility. With regards to the traffic impacts, as noted previously, compared to the RV storage, the container storage use really is only a negligible increase of 4 daily trips per day. With regards to damage to the easement road, which is shared by not only the subject property, but also the self-storage use. Majority of the shipping containers, as noted previously, will be empty. Actually less than 2% of the containers will be empty. The weight of the shipping containers versus the RV storage, the RVs that were previously approved are relatively similar in weight, so the damage is negligible at that point. So fourth is a concern with regards to ingress and egress at Pioneer. Staff will acknowledge that this is we'll say is a very tight maneuver, but it is a maneuver that is possible. And I actually have videos showing trucks entering and exiting the site provided by the applicant, just to show exactly what would happen out there in real life. Video. So, I mean, admittedly, it is a tight maneuver, and I think staff as well as the applicant is aware of that and acknowledges that. There are conditions in the CUP that essentially triggers a redesign, or at least discussions to redesign that entrance as needed if conflicts arise and is determined that it needs to be redesigned. The applicant's fully aware and on board with redesigning, but it is also subject to discussions with the neighboring property owner, who actually, it's private property, so he has also, I guess, considerations of that redesign. Not only does it impact his property, but there's also a sign that identifies his property as well within that planter area. So with that said, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission tonight adopt the addendum to the existing initial study, mitigated neg deck. We're also asking you to find that the project CUP and zone variance meets the criteria set forth in the zoning ordinance, and therefore approve the amendment to conditional use permit 641 and amendment to zone variance case number 68, subject to the conditions stated within the resolution, which incorporates the Planning Commission's findings and actions regarding this matter. That concludes my presentation. I do have the applicant's CEQA consultant, as well as our city traffic engineer, if you have any questions.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Nguyen. Really appreciate it. Very thorough and detailed. I would like to open the public hearing at 6:29. I would like to call upon the applicant, if they wish to speak, please approach the podium. Or actually, I'm sorry. Do any of the commissioners have any questions on this item for the planning staff before? I apologize for that.
Is this going to be a tenant facility, and what are the hours of operations, 24 hours or just during business hours?
Correct. It's proposed to be 24-hour operation.
Okay, so the gate, there'll be a person or security 24 hours a day?
Right. Yes, there is the office trailer, which will house basically the security personnel and other personnel that's needed.
Okay, thank you. And one more question, you mentioned there was portable lighting?
Right. Because the site does not have utilities on site, there will be portable lighting, basically utilizing generators.
Okay, that was good. Generators.
Correct.
Thank you.
I have two questions. You mentioned that it's a 5-year extension with a 2-year review.
Yes.
Okay. And the 2-year review is something that we're going to calendar and assure to follow up with?
Right. The 2-year review is more or less to make sure that there is a follow-up, once the operation is underway, to make sure that the conditions are continually complied with. There's no issues with the entrance, for example, and things like that. Yes.
My next question falls on the entrance. So I noticed that there's a planter there. Was that planter approved previous to being added to that entrance?
That planter, I don't have a date, but it was approved previously by the city. In our research, we could not find approvals for the boulders that were placed within those planters. And, some of the conflict, so full disclosure, we are aware of 2 specific accidents that has occurred at that entrance. But, it appears based on the photos and videos that we've seen, that the boulders do create some of that conflict.
So no further questions? Okay, so now I would like to open the public hearing at 6:32. I would like to call upon the applicant. If they wish to speak, please approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is Rafi Minasian. Wanted to thank the planning commissioners for their time this evening. Wanted to also thank staff for their presentation, also their diligence in working with us to address the concerns and work on the draft conditions that are before you. I just wanted to make a couple comments, and as Mr. Nguyen pointed out, we also have our environmental consultant here if you do have some specific questions as to his analysis and the report that he submitted, both with regards to environmental issues as well as the traffic. But what I wanted to just highlight was that what we've proposed here is consistent with zoning. It's consistent with the original CUP. And as was pointed out, it also meets the demands of the marketplace, the business community. It is a very unique site, and there are only a handful of uses, I think, that would be appropriate there. And this is certainly one of them. And probably more importantly, in terms of the points I want to make, is that it's also supported by staff. It's something that we've, like I said, worked very closely with staff to try and come up with a use that they would be supportive of and agreeable to. We've, there was some comment about some of the issues that are on or around the site, and one is the homelessness situation. We've actually done a really good job of removing any homeless individuals or encampments on the property itself. However, we're adjacent to other properties, including the railroad right-of-way, which is where they mostly reside, and that's something we don't have control over. That said, this project would clean that area up more significantly. It would obviously provide fencing. It would provide traffic, business use, and perhaps more importantly than anything else, it also provides 24-hour security. Regardless of the hours of operation, security will be on site 24/7, including cameras. And so I think all that will better support the neighbors, the neighbor to the north, who's raised some of these concerns in the past or has had some frustrations with, the surrounding area. It also will clean up the trash, the blight. I just think it's overall a win-win for everybody involved. There was some discussion about the property, and I acknowledge it's a very unique piece of property, but the visibility is very limited. It's obscured by the freeway. It sits very low. If anyone's actually been on the site, I don't think people appreciate just how hidden this piece of property is. It's got the storage facility to the north. To the west, it's got the river. Again, it sits well below it. And then to the south, we've got the railroad. So this is, like I said, it checks a lot of the boxes, and so we certainly would not only appreciate your thoughtful consideration of our proposed use, but hopefully your approval as well. Just really quickly, I wanted to, I'm just going through my notes, there's something I haven't maybe mentioned. The driveway, which we saw the video too, and we're still working through exactly how that would work, and if there is an opportunity for us to expand on it. We've been frustrated, and I think it's not just our use. The railroad also has access to that entryway. The RVs that we were proposing originally would have had to traverse that exact same driveway, both as an ingress and an egress. The easement documents that staff has also taken a look at, which we provided to them as part of this process, it actually says that the right of ingress and egress is for unlimited and unrestricted uses. And so, in many ways, I don't think there should be anything actually impeding that driveway. There are driveways across the street, down the street, that are far narrower than what we've got, and there's nothing there, actually far wider. And so for a multitude of reasons, we actually would be open to resolving any driveway-related issues going forward, and that's in the conditions. Certainly we'll talk to staff about what we can do. But with regards to any issues to safety, any issues that have ever come up along that way, the primary problem has been the boulders that Mr. Nguyen pointed out. Those boulders, we don't feel, first of all, they were not there originally. They've been placed over the last several years, and it's actually the reason that any trucks or vehicles actually get stuck making that turn. But for those boulders, you might go over, a curb, you may go over some of the grass area, but you certainly don't get stuck and create a safety hazard for not only the driver or the vehicle owner, but also the public. So I just wanted to address that, and I'll stop my comments. I'm certainly here to answer any further questions. And as I pointed out, we also have our environmental consultant here ready to be helpful as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
No questions, but I just want to say that I know that area right there that you're talking about, and it's a very dark area at night and stuff, and I do appreciate that there's going to be fencing and security 24/7. I did have some storage in that little storage place there before, and it's just, you're right, that spot is very hidden, so I think it'll be good that you're going to have security there and a 10-foot fence.
Since you had a concern with the boulders and planning staff did too, if you're going to be doing all this grading and base and pack down, would those boulders be removed if they seem to be a problem?
As mentioned previously, those boulders are actually on private property which is owned and maintained through an easement by the North Lake property owner. Yeah.
I just have one question. Although the percentage is very small, I think it's less than 2% of the non-vacant storage units. Do we know what would be in those
So
storage?
we don't,
containers?
but I will say there's conditions of approval from fire to make sure that whatever is in there is not,
Hazardous?
out of compliance with fire code requirements in terms of explosive, hazardous chemicals, things like that. So there are conditions in place to make sure and control that those types of products are not in the containers.
Well, I'm glad that if this goes through the lighting, I think it's going to be a benefit for that area to increase lighting in that area. And you had mentioned generators. have we possibly considered the fact of maybe either a solar or a battery type of lighting when it's possible? I know that there's no electricity there, but something to consider?
Yes, Commissioner, that's actually what we would hopefully have there, is lighting that would be solar. So that's the plan. And ultimately, everything we do put forth is going to have to be seen by planning, as well as I think police wants to take a look at our overall security plan, and lighting would obviously be part of that. So I think the conditions as written right now provide some flexibility, but we're certainly hopeful that that's what we'll be able to put in place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there's anyone from the audience wishing to speak on this matter, if so, please use the raise function or approach the podium.
Chairperson, I'd like to call Mr. Jack Thompson to the podium.
Please state your name and city of residence for the record and address the Planning Commission. Also,
Jack
please-
Thompson, Irvine.
Also, please note that there is a 3-minute time limit for each speaker.
I represent Stadium Properties. We manage the property to the north. We're the neighbor. And first, I'd like to say that I think overall, the use being proposed is a good use, and we support it wholeheartedly. We've got a few little comments to make. We'll start off with the boulders, since that seems to be the topic. We put those in there to try and protect our landscaping. And we found that once the trucks started coming in, they jumped the curb, crushed our landscape sprinklers, and we had to keep replacing them. So we've tried to keep the boulders there so that truckers can kind of spot where the curb is and stay within bounds. They're not jumping out at the trucks or anything, and they've been kind of helpful in that respect. We've already had to replace our sign 1 or 2 times, I forget. Twice. And that's the sign in the middle of that parkway, now, or the center area. That was actually designed by the city and told us to put it there to direct traffic in and out. So that was pretty much when we developed the property at the request of the city to control traffic. As to the truck traffic, I'd like to recommend that someone do another study on the traffic, focusing on that entryway. The original one was done in 2008. There has not been a new one done. It came up with the same number of trips, but now it's going to be 24/7 operations than it was 12 hours operations. That's not taken into effect or into consideration at all. The larger trucks, I think, do weigh more. I don't know what that's going to cause damage-wise. We just have no idea at this point. Also, the easement was not really contemplating large trucks. And for a long stretch, the driveway is only 20 feet wide. So you have containers going down that I think are 10 feet wide on each side. It's going to be very tight if there's two-way traffic, and it is 2 ways. Moving on to the paving variance, which kind of surprised me. I can understand why someone might want to do it because it's inexpensive, but when the ultimate hammer comes down and he has to pave it, he's going to have to remove the base that he's used because it's the wrong size and put new base under the new asphalt when that time comes. So it's going to be a lot more expensive in the long run for him, but I understand in the short run it's cheaper. So I thought I'd mention that. And one thing that upset me was there's
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Approach the podium. Okay. I would like to close the public hearing at 6:45. This is now the time for deliberation by the commission. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 256-2024 for amendment to conditional use permit, CUP case number 641, and amendment to zone variance, ZV case number 68?
I'll move.
Second?
Planning Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mora,
Aye.
Chair Ayala,
Aye.
passes 4-0.
So ordered. There is a 14 appeal period for anyone wishing to appeal this matter. Okay, move on to the next item. Public hearing to consider the proposed zone text amendment, ZTA, to amend Chapter 154, subdivisions for an urban lot split, and Chapter 155 zoning for the creation of 2 residential units per lot of the Santa Fe Springs Municipal Code, all pursuant to Senate Bill 9, and determination that the action is exempt under CEQA. I would like to call upon Associate Planner Jimmy Wong to provide a presentation regarding item number 2.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner. Item number 2, zone text amendment for urban lot split and 2-unit housing development. So a little background. On September 16, 2021, the governor signed a Senate Bill 9, also known as the HOME Act, into law and mandate that local jurisdiction must approve by right 2-unit residential housing development and subdivision, also known as urban lot split on single-family residential zone lot if they meet certain requirement outlined in the California Government Code Section 65852.21 and 66411.7, as well as local jurisdiction objective development and subdivision standard. I'm a little bit loud. So the proposed CTA aim to update a city procedure and development standard for SB9 project to ensure consistency with the state law. So the proposed CTA introduced 2 new chapters. The first chapter is section 154.20, urban lot split. It will be under chapter 154, the subdivision chapter. The second new section will be section 155.660, known as 2-unit housing development, to be codified in chapter 155, the zoning section of the city municipal code. The first section is the urban lot split, which is subdivision of an existing single-family zone lot into 2 individual parcels. So some key standard for to apply for urban lot split is that the parcel has to be a single-family zone lot. The split can only occur once. You cannot split the lot more than one. Minimum lot size for each of the lot after the split is 1,200 square feet. The split cannot be greater than 60-40 ratio, and it must provide a 10-foot wide driveway access for each of the lot. And the lot split, if it's the same owner adjacent to each other, they cannot apply the lot split for each of the lot. And lastly, the applicant are not exempt from the Subdivision Map Act, so they will still need to submit to the city for a subdivision. In addition, the applicant for any urban lot split is required to sign an affidavit form approved by the city attorney. Here's the 5 items that are within the affidavits. see. And then the second element to the SB9 is the 2-unit housing development, which allow for development of 2 primary dwelling unit on a single family zone lot. So here are some key standard for the 2-unit housing development. It must be a single family zone lot, a maximum of 2 single family unit, and unit otherwise allowed pursuant to the density bonus, accessory dwelling unit, and junior accessory dwelling unit provision. The maximum height for the SB9 unit is same as the underlying zone. Allowable size is the same as the underneath zone. For example, for R1 is 40% lot coverage. However, we cannot prevent a unit of less than 800 square feet. And for front setback is also based on the underlying zone, and the side and the rear setback will be a minimum of 4 feet. And as for parking, a minimum of 1 parking per SB9 unit created. Similar to the urban lot split, for a 2-unit development, they will also need to sign an affidavit approved by the city attorney. The element within the affidavit is that it has to be used for residential use and cannot be short-term rental under 31 days. So another key standard from the new zone text amendment is the number of unit per lot. Here is a 2 diagram of 2 different scenarios. The first one is where the applicant applied for a 2-unit development, which under SB9, they are allowed also to have a separate JADU and a ADU. So in total, they will have 4 units in 1 lot. So the second scenario is where the applicant applied for an urban lot split, where they split the existing single-family lot into 2 separate lots. Each of the lot can have a maximum of 2 units, and ADU and JADU will count toward that 2-unit maximum. So in any scenario, the maximum number of units will be 4. Either they go through a 2-unit housing development or they go through an urban lot split. There are some provisions that prohibit an applicant to apply for SB9. Here are the housing type that are prohibited from implementing SB9. For example, houses that are under rent control, or housing that are for affordable housing for moderate, low, and very low income. In addition, parcels that are located within certain zone, hazardous zone, are also prohibited from applying for SB9. For general plan consistency, the proposed zone text amendment is consistent with the housing element as described below, and especially for policy 1.5 for allocated overcrowding condition. Also policy 2.5 for infill housing, and also policy 5.3 of housing legislation. As for CEQA, according to the Government Code Section 65852.2J and 66411.7N, the adoption of the SB9 bill is exempt from CEQA. As for public hearing, public hearing notice was posted in City Hall, Town Standard Hall, and the City Library. Also published in newspaper Whittier Daily on February 16, 2024. We have not received any comment regarding this item. As for your consideration, staff found that the proposed zone text amendment meet and exceed the minimum provision outlined in the government code. Also that the proposed zone text amendment is consistent with the city general plan, and that the zone text amendment meet the requirement as contained in planning and zoning law. Staff recommend that the Plan Commission find the project is exempt from CEQA, also adopt resolution number 258-2024, and also recommend the Planning Commission to recommend the City Council approve and adopt ordinance number 1136. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any question, I'm able to answer.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Wong. I would like to open, actually, do any of the commissioners have any questions on this item for the planning staff? Okay. I would like to open the public hearing at 6:55. If there's anyone from the audience wishing to speak on this matter, if so, please use the raise hand function or approach the podium.
Chair, we don't have anybody speaking on this item.
Okay. So I would like to close the public hearing at 6:56. This is now the time for deliberation by the commissioners. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 258-2024, which incorporates the Planning Commission's findings and actions regarding this matter, and recommend that the City Council approve and adopt ordinance number 1136 to effectuate the proposed amendments to the text of Chapter 154, subdivisions, and Chapter 155 zoning of the Santa Fe Springs Municipal Code? Do we have a motion?
I move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Planet Secretary, roll call, please.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye?
Vice Chair Mora,
Aye.
Chair Ayala,
Aye. So ordered. There's a 14-day appeal period for anyone wishing to appeal this matter. Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, public hearing to consider the proposed zone text amendment to add sections 155.005 and 155.006 and amend sections 155.06, 155.620 and 155.628, 155.640, 155.715, 155.865, and 155.866 within Title 15 Land Use, Chapter 155 Zoning of the Santa Fe Springs Municipal Code. I would like to call upon Planning Consultant Laurel Reimer to provide presentation regarding item number 3.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Laurel Reimer. The purpose of the zone text amendment before you tonight is primarily to do minor text amendments as a zoning, or rather a cleanup effort for the zoning code. The intent is to streamline a few of the approval processes and to clarify processes as well. Two of the amendments before you tonight are additions to the code. Section 155.005 pertains to city projects, and it will exempt city projects that are either on city property. Well, let me read it exactly for you. Sorry. It's for any buildings, improvements, lots, premises owned, leased, operated, or controlled by the city, or any city project for public purposes. So that's now codifying that. And then similarly, 155.006 is adding an indemnification section to the code. We already add this as a condition of approval for most of our entitlements, and so now we're doing an additional effort of putting it in the code itself. There are 5 revisions. The first 3, 155.620 pertains to Christmas tree sales. This amendment now allows for Christmas tree sales to start the Friday after Thanksgiving. The code currently says December 1st. And it also allows for the director, the community development director, to approve the request rather than waiting for this project to, or the request to go before the city council. So that's speeding up the approval process. Similarly, for 155.628, that's the sale or service of alcoholic beverages. As it stands now, you receive alcohol conditional use permits before you, and then you recommend approval before the city council, before it becomes approved, final. This removes that second step, and now the Planning Commission will be the final approving authority for alcohol CUPs. Additionally, Section 155.640 is for special use, using parking areas for special use events. And this used to, or currently, it requires the city council to approve those. And now the community development director will be able to approve those requests. The 3 other revisions 155.715 clarifies that all conditional use permits need to go before the Planning Commission for a hearing. The current language in the code is a little bit confusing, and this just cleans it up and tightens it up to make it more clear. 155.865 clarifies that the appeal and effective date is 14 days after the Planning Commission action. The way the code is worded now, it's 14 days after receipt of the approval letter. And so that can get a little funky if they moved or things got returned. So this just makes it very clear that the Planning Commission makes the decision, and then 14 days after that decision, it's considered final. Lastly, section 155.866 clarifies the appeal process, similar to the public hearing process. It just makes it a little bit more clear of how the appeal process is conducted. The request is consistent with 4 policies within the general plan. Policy Community and Open Space 2.2, Economic Policy Economic Development 5.1, Economic Development 5.2, and Environmental Justice 4.1. For these policies within the general plan, they mostly pertain to making it easier for community organizations to host events, enabling civic engagement easier, and partnering with local businesses. So the intent of all of the amendments that are before you is to make the process more clear and speed up the approval process as well. The zoning text amendment is exempt from CEQA using the common sense exemption that the action before you or the project will not have a direct impact on the environment, and that's CEQA guideline section 15061B3. The project was posted on February 14th at Town Center Hall, City Hall, and the library. It was published in the Whittier Daily News on February 16th, and no comments were received. The recommendation is that the Planning Commission find and determine that the zone text amendment is consistent with the goals, policies, and programs of the general plan. Find that the zone text amendment is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3, and adopt resolution 259-024, which incorporates the Planning Commission's findings and actions and recommends that the City Council approve and adopt an ordinance that would effectuate the zone text amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Reimer. Do any of the commissioners have any questions on this item for the planning staff? I would like to open the public hearing at 7:03 p.m. If there's anyone from the audience wishing to speak on this matter, if so, please use the raise hand function or approach the podium. Okay, doesn't seem like we have anyone. I would like to close the public hearing at 7:03. This is now the time for deliberation by the commissioners. If there's a motion to approve resolution number 259-2024, which incorporates the Planning Commission's findings and actions regarding this matter, and recommend that the City Council approve and adopt ordinance number 1135 to effectuate the proposed amendments to the text of the city zoning ordinance. Do you have a motion?
No move.
I'll second.
Planning Secretary, roll call, please.
Commissioner Flores? Oops, sorry. Commissioner Flores?
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Mora?
Aye.
Chair Ayala?
Aye.
4-0.
So ordered. There's a 14-day appeal period for anyone wishing to appeal this matter. Right. New business, item number 4, new businesses, general plan conformity, GPC case numbers 2024-01 and 2024-02, a resolution determined by the disposition of the 8 parcels APNS 8011-018-900, 901, 902, 903, 904, 905, 906 and 8011-019-911, commonly referred to as MC&C. Third, within the MU mixed-use zoning located at the southeast corner of Bloomfield Avenue and Telegraph Road, and the disposition of the 28 parcels commonly referred to as MCNC 4 within the M2 heavy manufacturing zone located along the north side of Telegraph Road with additional frontage on Romandale Avenue in the city of Santa Fe Springs. Conforms to the city of Santa Fe Springs general plan pursuant to Government Code Section 65402, and that the action is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15061B, 3 general rule common sense exception. I would like to call upon Associate Planner Jimmy Wong to provide a presentation regarding item number 4.
Hi, Commissioner. I just wanted to announce a addition. We have added additional CEQA exemption, and I have presented the revised resolution to the Commissioner. The additional exemption will be Section 15351, Class 12, and I will provide additional detail in the presentation. So item number 4, general plan conformity, GPC, case number 2024-01 and 2024-02. I will quickly summarize the title of each of the item. So for general plan conformity, case number 2024-01 is the resolution determined that the disposition of the 8 parcel commonly referred to MCNC 3 within the MU mixed-use zone located at the southeast corner of Bloomfield Avenue and Telegraph is in conformance with the City of Santa Fe Spring General Plan. The second item is, the second part of the item number 4 is General Plan Conformity Case Number 2024-02. A resolution determined that the disposition of the 28 parcel commonly referred to as MCNC 4 within the M2 heavy manufacturing zone located along the north side of Telegraph Road with additional frontage on Romandale Avenue is conformance with the City of Santa Fe Spring General Plan. Hopefully I don't have to say this again. All right, so a little background. The first site is the MCNC 3. It's located in the southeast corner of Telegraph Road and Bloomfield Avenue. The area highlighted in yellow consists of all 8 parcel, and that's known as the MCNC 3. And then the second site is located between the north side of Telegraph and Romandale Avenue. It consists of 28 parcel and is commonly known as MCNC 4. So the reason for the general plan conformity, the subject site is designed as surplus land and will undergo disposition. And pursuant to Surplus Land Act, Government Code Section 54221, prior to disposition, the Planning Commission must confirm that all property conform to the provision of the city general plan. A public hearing notice was sent to surrounding property. A total of 64 notices were mailed out to the surrounding property in February 15, 2024. Staff have not received any comment regarding this matter. As for CEQA, the staff found that the proposed general plan conformity is exempt pursuant to Section 1506B3, common sense exception. In addition, staff also find that the disposition of the surplus land is also exempt pursuant to Section 15312, Class 12 of the CEQA guideline. As for general plan conformity consideration, staff found that the disposition of the subject property align with the land use and economic development element of the city general plan. The first one is policy 2.5, where it create a employment district, Currently, the subject site is vacant, so any type of development will provide additional employment to the city and the surrounding area. The second policy is economic development 2.3, which provide additional sales tax. As mentioned, the site is currently vacant, so any type of development will potentially provide additional sales tax to the city. And lastly, the economic development 3.5 for oil field. Currently, there are around 28 to 36 oil field in each of the site. Any type of development will be required to abandon certain type of oil field, and it will retire some of them as well. So staff recommend that the Planning Commission find the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 1506B3, the General Rule Common Sense Exception, and Section 15312, Class 12, for surplus government property sale. In addition, staff recommend that Planning Commission find the general plan conformity case number 2024-01 and 2024-02 is in conformance with the City of Santa Fe Spring General Plan, and adopt resolution number 257-2024, which incorporate the Planning Commission finding and action regarding this matter. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Do any of the commissioners have any questions on this item for the planning staff?
For the oil mitigation, what's the standard for depth of extraction? I mean,
I'm not 100% sure.
if there's, oh, okay, I'm not sure.
So with regards to just the question, it doesn't pertain to what's before you tonight, but in terms of just oil extraction and oil abandonment in general, that is more of handled by CalGEM, not really the city staff or fire department. But it varies from oil well to oil well in terms of how far down it would take to abandon an oil well.
Anyone else? Planning Secretary, do we have anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this matter?
Chair, we do. We have Ernest from Bridgeland Resources.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ernest Guadiana. I'm the attorney for Bridgeland Resources. We fully support the general plan conformance cases. Just to address your comment, Commissioner Flores, the wells are about 2,000 feet deep, but we plan on plugging and abandoning those at some point in the future, once development of this site would occur. And for remediation, that's just general environmental remediation that would be, in which the sites would be bring up to whatever the standard necessary for the development. Thank you again for your consideration of this matter.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? No? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt resolution number 257-2024, which incorporates the Planning Commission's findings and actions regarding this matter, and recommend that the City Council concur with the findings of the Planning Commission? Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
Planning Secretary, roll call to vote, please.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mora,
Aye.
Chair Ayala,
Aye.
passes 4-0.
So ordered. There's a 14-day appeal period for anyone wishing to appeal this matter. Okay, now onto the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine. Any items a planning commissioner wishes to discuss should be designated at this time. All other items may be approved in a single motion. Such approval will also waive the reading of any ordinance. For consent item number 5 and 6, is there a motion and a second for the approval of the consent items?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Planning Secretary, roll call to vote, please.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye?
Vice Chair Mora,
Aye.
Chair Ayala,
Aye.
passes 4-0.
So ordered. There's a 14-day appeal period for anyone wishing to appeal this matter. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or something to report on?
Have none?
None.
Okay. All right, I would like to adjourn this meeting to the next Planning Commission meeting scheduled for March 11, 2024. At 7:16 PM.